All right, so again, I'm going to run through some steps. The order in which you do some of these steps does matter. The order in which you do most of these steps doesn't matter, just so you know. But the package that we're going to use is called Node.js. And Node, what happened literally about 10 years ago was a guy named Ryan Dahl said, you know, the engine that's used to run Google, that's used to run Chrome, okay, it's called V8. Okay, and he said that engine's pretty cool. I wonder if I could take it and basically add some code to it where I could run JavaScript instead of on the client. I could run it on the server and create my own web servers out of JavaScript. That's what he did. All right. So if you go out to nodejs.org and hit enter, you'll come to right here. All right. The system should know whether or not you've got a 64-bit machine or a 32-bit machine. So I went out to nodejs.org. All right. I realize it can be kind of hard to see from back there, so you don't need the HTTPS, you don't need the dash on the end, you can just literally go right out to there. Nodejs.org. All right. Again, if you do go out to there, this is what you'll see. Now, this is a little confusing. 12.18.14 LTS, 14.12.0 current. So which one do you download? Virtually all of the time for all of us, we will do the one on the left. The one on the left, LTS, stands for long-term support. It means it's been out there for a while, it's been tested, it shouldn't break. 14.12.0, the current, is in what's called basically beta mode. Yeah, it probably has some features that you don't have in 12.18.4, but it's not guaranteed that by this afternoon there'll be something out there saying, hey, if you're using this, it's broken. Okay? Just so you know that. So, if you went here and you click this, basically you'll want to save it. All right? If you're using Chrome, at least for me, my downloads always go down here in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm not going to do this because I already have Node on my machine. If you then right mouse click on it, you should be able to choose Open when done. It's a relatively simple install. You literally take, as far as I remember, every single default. That's it. You probably can install it in like a minute. That's how hard it is. All right? So once you've done that and you've got it, then just so you know, if you want to make sure when you install it that it worked correctly, I'm just going to open up a folder here. If you want to know whether or not it worked correctly, you can go to a folder, right mouse click on it, choose Git Bash here. You know how to do that because we've been doing this. But if you want to find out whether or not it loaded correctly, there's two commands that you can put in. One is node minus v. No, it's not. It's a little v, sorry. Node minus v. You'll notice I've already got an old one. All right, this is the one I did at the beginning of the semester. I think it's old. Maybe it's not. I don't really care. But if it comes back, if you've tried doing the install and you type in node space minus v, and it comes back that it can't find it, somehow the install was done incorrectly. Does that make sense? And the old command for this was node minus, I think it was it minus version? Yep. But what they've done is they've taken a bunch of their commands and they basically made them easier to use. There's also something you use with Node that you should have gotten when you did the install that's called NPM, Node Package Manager. That's what NPM stands for. If you want to know if the NPM loaded, you can do an NPM minus V. And you'll get a version for that. You'll notice the version's a lot less. They're not necessarily in sync with one another. NPM is, I'm speaking here, this is my own opinion, is maybe the coolest thing in coding in the entire world. It's literally around 1 million modules of code that other people have written that you can use for absolutely for free. And they've got everything in there. If you go out to NPM, for example, and you search for Marvel superheroes, guess what? You'll find stuff. So if you want to do stuff with Marvel superheroes, you can do that. All right? So I'm going to run through the steps right here, and I'm going to grab that WeSoM one that we did for Flexbox, and I'm going to run through every step of putting that thing, all right, grabbing it and putting it literally out on the web. Okay? All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to find it. That's not it, believe it or not. So I called it WeSoM Flexbox, I believe. WeSoM Flex. I'm going to do a Control-C to copy it. I'm going to bring it out here, and I'm going to paste it. All right. So there it is. And it'll become hopefully apparent in just a minute, but I'm going to change this from WeSoM Flex, and I'm going to call it WeSoM Flex 2. You'll see why in just a minute. All right. So there's my start. Now, just so you know, okay, this morning was the first time I ever published anything out to GitHub pages. I use another free thing that we learn in the class next spring that's called Heroku. It's another one that you can use. GitHub pages is, since we're using GitHub, it sure made sense to do something that was involved with GitHub. All right, but you can also use Heroku. You could set up an account there and download that. They've got a free tier also where you can do that. All right, so, all right, first thing that I'm going to do then is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a brand new folder. It's going to sound weird, but I'm going to call it WeSoM Flex. In fact, I'm just going to make it all lowercase. WeSoM-Flex. Okay? Now, I'm going to take in that folder, I'm going to go and create another folder, and I'm going to call it dist. D-I-S-T, which usually stands for distribution. All right? So, I've got that in there. Now what I want to do is go back to my original WeSoM here, okay? And I want to grab everything that I had in it, into my Flex, everything that's in there, copy it to the clipboard, so that's, and now I'm going to put it inside of that dist folder. So now I do have it in there, and everything that I've got is in the dist folder. Just in case you don't remember it, this is the one that we did. Hopefully this one works. That isn't good, is it? It says that it's 0 in size. That ain't good. All righty. Because I don't want to publish something and then have it be empty, because that would be kind of stupid. Yep. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. I'll go back to the other one that we had, which was called WeSoM Responsive. Okay? And I'm just going to create a new folder here that I'm going to call WeSoM RESP, or WeSoM Responsive. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to do the same thing that I just showed you. All right, I'm going to come in there and I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it dist. All right, then I'm going to go back to my original responsive one that was in here. Don't worry about this stuff, because that's what we're going to create now. And I'm going to grab my CSS folder, my images folder, my JavaScript folder, just those, and my about, my contact, and my index. Okay? And I'm going to copy those to the clipboard, and I'm going to throw them into this dist folder right here. Let's double check and make sure we've got something in there and that indeed works. So I'm going to double click on this. There it is. There's about, there's contact. Okay? All right. So I've got, they're in this WeSoM RESP, okay, folder. All right. I'm going to do this a little bit out of order in that I'm going to go out to GitHub now. You don't have to do this right away, but I'm going to go out to github.com. You know how to do this. Click the plus sign, choose new repository, and I'm going to create WeSoM RESP. All right, I think that's what I just called it. All right. So with that in there, I'm just going to click Create Repository. And I'm going to go and I'm going to grab that particular line or code right there. I can either highlight all of it or click the clipboard thing right there, but either one should work. All right. So now in here, I'm in here. Okay. So I've got Node up and running. Now I've got to explain a few things to you that you probably find confusing, and I'm sorry about that, but it's just the way that it is. All right. So the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to set all my stuff up. Okay. In other words, I'm going to come in here and set up my Node stuff. Okay. And I also want to set up my GitHub stuff. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do a git bash here. This is nothing new. You've all done this before. And what am I going to do? Well, right now, I don't have a git init. I don't have anything in here. And I'm in my RESP. I'm not in my dist folder here. I'm in my WeSoM RESP. So I'm going to come in and, as we've always been doing, git init, hit enter. There's my folder. So I've got my empty repository. All right. Git, I'm not going to even do an add right now. I could, but it's okay. In fact, I'm just going to leave it right there. So I've done my git init. All right. And then, again, it'll sound a little confusing, but I'm going to open up another git bash window because this one I'm going to use for all of my Node stuff. All right. And again, if you say this is really, complex, I don't know how to do it. If you want to do it, I'll work with you one-on-one if I have to. It's not a problem. All right. So coming out here, the first thing that I want to do is I have to create what's called a package.json file. Don't worry about what it is. All right. There's two ways that you can do this. All right. I can type in npm init -y, and if I hit enter, it's going to accept every default. It's not going to basically set up much of anything for me. All right. But if I leave off the -y, it's going to ask me questions every time. So let me make this bigger. And it says, what's the name of your package? That's the name of your folder. Okay? And that's what I want to use. All right. What's the version? Yeah, that's fine. What's the description? And I'm just going to put out here, uploading WeSoM responsive website to GitHub pages exercise, because that's what it is. Entry point. Well, right now we don't have that file, but we'll make it in a minute, so don't worry about that. It says index.js. Fine. Test command. We're going to set that ourselves. Git repository. We've already got one, so we can put our repository in there if we want. So I can paste that in. Whoops. Well, I guess it didn't take that. All right. It's not a problem one way or the other. Keywords, leave it blank. Author, you want to put your name in there? Put your name in there. I probably should have put my last name, but it's fine. All right. So it created this file, and it's got all this stuff in it. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and I'm going to open up this folder. You've seen this before. So I'm going to come in, and in this WeSoM RESP, I'm going to open up that folder inside of code. So open with code. All right. Now, I don't like the fact, I wish I could say I did this on purpose to teach you something, but I'd be lying. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go actually create this file. So in here, I don't know why, but let's see. It didn't create the file. Okay, not a problem. Oh, I didn't remember. See down here where it says, is it okay? I didn't hit enter. Now it's okay. Now it created a file for me. That was my fault. So there's that file. See it? So I want to open this file, and I want to open it up in code. There it is, package.json. And it's the same thing that I just showed you here. All right. Well, one thing is I want to put my whole name in there. Not a big thing, but I want to put my whole name in there. So I can go back and change this file. Not a big thing. All right. But I want to add a few things in here. This is what you have to add in order to be able to use GitHub Pages. Now, let's just run through the stuff in here. This is the name of your folder. This is the version. So if I would create a new one, I'd probably either want to make version 1.1.0 or version 2 or whatever, however I'm going to do this. This is the description that you saw me type in. This is the starting point for Node, which we haven't created yet. We'll create that in just a minute. These are the scripts that we want to be able to run. Well, right now, this script isn't going to do diddly. All right, it's a test script that gets thrown in there by default that doesn't do anything. So I want to change this, and I want to type in deploy, because this is how I'm going to deploy this basically to GitHub Pages. And I have to say GH for GitHub, Pages -D dist. That folder that I just put that stuff into. All right? All right. So what else do I want to do? Under where it says license here, you'll notice that every time I finish something, I put in a comma at the end. All right, except this last one. Well, I want to put in something else, so I need a comma here. And I have to let GitHub Pages know what my home page is going to be. Oops. So, home page. All right. And it's https:// my GitHub name, which is JP Scott Rankin, / github.io / and I spelled Rankin wrong, didn't I? Rankin, GitHub.io, and then it's what do I want to save this as? Well, we just said it's WeSoM RESP. All right, so we need that in there as well. Okay, I'm going to just do a file save right now, and I'm just saving what I have. Okay, am I going to add anything else? I don't think I have to, but we'll see. So I'll just keep that file open. Now I'm going to go back here, and this is the first time you get to see this because I want to show you the package manager. All right, and the way I'm going to show it to you is I'm going to run a package. This is how easy it is to go out to the package manager and tell it to install something for me. This is literally how easy it is. So I'm going to come out here and say npm install gh-pages, that means GitHub Pages, -- save, which means save it in my local repository, what I'm doing right now. Also, put in here -dev. And again, I'm going to confuse you if I get into too much detail, but there's different kinds of dependencies that you can create. It's easier for me to hit enter right now and show this to you. It really is. So I'm going to hit enter. It's going to spin its wheels for 15 or 20 seconds. It's going to give me some messages. There it is. So now notice if I go back into my file here, can you see what it added? A developer dependency for GitHub Pages. So what it's saying is make GitHub Pages available to this project, which is exactly what we want. Now, unfortunately, when it did this, it also came in here and it created this folder right here called Node Modules. And when I say unfortunately, what it does is it says everything that GitHub Pages is dependent on, now I've got to add it to the program. Everything that's dependent on everything that's dependent on GitHub, add that. So if you look in here, it added a whole bunch of junk. If I go and add that to my GitHub repository, if I do that, it gets really, really big. I don't want to do that. So what I want to do is I want to go back here, and this is the first time you've seen this, is I want to go back here to WeSoM RESP right here, and I want to create a new file. And I want to call it .gitignore and hit enter. It's got no extension on it. The name of the file is .gitignore. That's the entire name. And I put in here node_modules, which means when you take that project of mine and you're going to upload it to github.com, don't include this folder. It's not necessary for what we're doing anyway. All right? It's going to take the file or the project, and instead of making it this big, it's going to make it this big, because all those dependencies won't be added. And I'm going to do a file save, and I'm going to close that file. That's all I needed to do in there. Now I want to double check. Create a folder, copy the files, install node, created the package, went to the package, changed it to deploy, added the home page, installed this. All right, we created the new repository already. All right, we added the git ignore file. We added node modules to that file. We saved it and we closed it. Okay, now, believe it or not, most of the stuff that we have to do, most of it, is now done. All right, now we've got to do the stuff that you already know how to do. So now I can say git add dot. All right, if you ever get that message, you've got to realize that Git was set up as a Linux or a Unix package. That's why you can run commands like ls and other, those are actually Linux commands that you're running. cd, mkdir, etc. All right, so when you get this message, what happens is typically when you hit the enter key, it goes in as what's called a line feed. But in DOS land, which is where we are, Windows land, it goes in as what's called a carriage return line feed. That's the CRLF. Well, in Linux or Unix land, it just goes in as an LF, a line feed. So what it's telling you here is anytime there's a line feed, I'm replacing it with a carriage return line feed. It's just a warning. It doesn't hurt anything, but they're just letting you know that. So I've got all that. I did my git.add dot. I'm going to do my git commit. -m. I'm going to put a message in similar to what I had before. Uploading WeSoM RESP website to GitHub pages. Again, that's not a perfect message, but something like that. That's fine. Hit enter. There's my commit, and it's telling me, notice the first thing that's in there is git ignore. If I didn't have that, this thing would literally be about 3 pages long. Because not only would it show me all those folders you saw, but all the files in all the folders. And it would be adding those as well. We don't want to do that. All right. So I'm down to here. Let me clear the screen, make it a little easier for you to see here. And now it's very similar to what we've already done. Git space remote space add origin. Now when I tried doing it this morning, stupid me, I tried doing it by remembering it by myself, and I typed it in wrong. So there it is. I'm just going to copy it so I'm sure I have it, and ideally it'll be correct. If you get this, you can't do a Control-V to paste. You can't do a Control-V to paste into the terminal. You've got to right mouse click and choose paste, like that. All right, so that added it. That added my origin. That's good. I can check it with a git space, what is it? Remote space -v. And it should have me in there, WeSoM RESP. That's what I want. All right, so now I can do my git push. Now, one thing I want to mention to you is I always just do a git push origin master, and I hit enter. All right. When the stuff that they give you a git push -u. It really doesn't matter if you put that in or not. I think U is for user. I mean, and it's doing the same thing. All right. But if you want to copy all of their stuff, hey, I don't really trust you, Jeff. I'd rather do then do that. It's not going to hurt anything. All right. So, boom. Send that. You know how long this takes, etc. It's going through everything. Shouldn't take very long because it's not really a very big website. Okay, that didn't take long. So I'm going to clear this. All right. Now, I've got all this stuff in there. Again, it created this package.json file for me. I've got my code in dist. It created the node modules for me. There's my git ignore file. This package lock.json file, all it does, if you go through that file, and I'm not going to, but if you go through it, all that it does is it shows you the version of each one of these things that's in Node Package Manager that you're using. And it's called a lock file because you're not supposed to change it once you've created it. All right, it's not that you can't change it, but the recommendation is that basically that you don't. All right, now if I go back here into GitHub and I refresh, I should have everything. I'm almost done. So this has bored the hell out of you, sorry, but I'm almost done. And the thing to realize, notice I've got package.json, I've got package.lock.json, I've got my git ignore, and I've got my dist. And everything that I need is in dist, just so you know. Everything I need is in there. All right, so with what I'm showing you right now, there's 12 steps, and I'm now going to go into step 9. All right, so this should not take very long. All right, then I've got to go back to here, and I'm back into my Node.js window, and I've got to tell it to deploy the website. All right, so I type in here node space, npm node package manager run deploy. And if you say, what the heck is deploy? That's that thing that we typed in there that said deploy, and we put the path in there to where this is. Hit enter. Notice it's smart enough, GitHub pages -d with the dist folder. All right, published. Guess what? It basically is done. All right, so now I go out here and I refresh again. Why would I want to refresh again? Well, look in here under master. Okay, can you see where it says master? Well, I guess it already has it. We need a GitHub pages, but I'm going to refresh it anyway. So I've got the latest and greatest right here. There. All right, then I'm going to go over to master, and I'm going to go to GH pages right there. Then I'm going to go over to, well, I want to go to settings. I always forget where the heck that is. I don't know if it's there. Here we go, settings. And I should be able to arrow down. Come on. There's GitHub pages. I click on the URL that it gave me. There's my site. It's now out on the internet where anybody who goes out to HTTPS, it's even secure, //jpscott.rankin.github.io/WeSoM-RESP can now get to that. Now again, maybe that you thought that was a waste of time. I don't know. But it's something I'm going to want all of you. We're going when we create the portfolio for you at the end of the semester, we're going to push that up to Rankin server. But I'd also like you to put it out here. Then you've always got yours. And guess what? You can always go back again and make changes to it. All right? All right. So that was a little longer than I thought it was going to take, but still, like I said, hopefully you got something out of that. You already saw a little bit on Node, etc. So, all right. Now I got tons of stuff open here, so I just want to close a few things. In the afternoon class, the one that you will all be taking in fall, we do a lot of this stuff, just so you know. I mean, this is a software program, but what we're doing is we are bridging the gap between software and hardware. What we are trying to do now in this program is make you what is referred to as full stack web developers. So you can do stuff on the client side, which is everything we're doing in here. Also on the server side. All right? And now you can use JavaScript on the server side. That's what Node.js is. All right? My guess is, and I don't know this for sure, when you take the class in spring, the one that Angie's already taken, but when you take that class in spring on C# programming, there's a good chance a year from now that class may change. We may not have C# anymore. We may have an advanced JavaScript class. So you might go websites, advanced JavaScript, Node.js, and then finally into Android. I don't know, but I think that's where it's going to go. And we may even end up getting rid of the Android and adding something else. Because you can now write Android apps and iOS apps using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That class might change eventually into that. I don't know. And the good news is I really don't have to know, because by the time it probably happens, I'll probably be retired. All right? But just FYI for you, I guess. All right, so that said, let me grab this.